1970s Brazil.
Oh, wow.
A time of military dictatorship and, fear and uncertainty, of a movie called I'm Still Here, which tells the true story of the Paiva family.
Interesting.
So are you ready to unpack this incredible story of resilience and, the fight for justice?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really struck me about this film is that it goes beyond, just presenting the historical facts and really tries to dive deep into the raw human impact that political oppression has on a family.
Let's start with the Paiva family because the film does such a wonderful job of showcasing their warmth and their joy.
Right.
Which almost makes that, looming threat of the dictatorship even more chilling.
Yeah.
We meet Rubens Paiva, former politician who's returned from exile.
Right.
And his wife Eunice, who later becomes a very prominent human rights advocate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really through her eyes, through Eunice's eyes, that we experience this unfolding tragedy.
Yeah, and I think the film does a really subtle job of, portraying their family life and those moments of happiness and normalcy.
Right.
Which just makes Rubens' disappearance all the more jarring.
It's like the contrast really throws that happiness into sharp relief.
Yeah. Right.
Knowing what's about to happen.
Right.
And then the tension really starts to ramp up, right? Eunice starts noticing, the military presence increasing.
Mm-hmm.
They even send their daughter Veroka to London because they just sensed this impending danger.
Yeah, that scene, the arrest scene, I found to be so chilling.
Oh, yeah.
It's, I think the director uses silence and Eunice's perspective so masterfully to just amplify that terror.
Yeah.
It's not about, graphic violence. It's about the psychological blow of having armed men invade your home and tear your family apart.
That silence is deafening, isn't it?
Oh, it really is.
It's like almost a character in itself, just, amplifying that fear and that uncertainty.
Precisely. Yeah, I think the film brilliantly uses that cinematic language to kind of mirror the oppressive atmosphere of the dictatorship.
And then you see Eunice being interrogated.
Right.
It's so gut-wrenching to watch her endure just this relentless questioning, the psychological pressure.
Yeah.
But what amazes me is her composure.
Right.
She never breaks, at least not in front of her captors.
And I think that's, what makes Fernanda Torres' performance so powerful, is she portrays that quiet strength, that refusal to be cowed. But then there's that one scene where she returns home and finally crumbles, revealing the immense weight that she's carrying. It's heartbreaking. It's so intensely human.
It's like that moment allows us to see the cracks in her armor.
Yeah.
Reminding us that even the strongest people have their breaking point. And yet she soldiers on, trying to create, some semblance of normalcy for her children while facing the unimaginable.
It's a real testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The film doesn't shy away from showing the emotional toll that all of this takes on her.
Yeah.
It portrays her as both a protector and a woman grappling with her own very deep personal pain.
And then there's this added layer of secrets.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just the secrets that the Junta keeps about Rubens' fate.
Right.
But there's also secrets within the family itself.
Oh.
The film hints at things that Rubens kept from Eunice, which just adds like another dimension to their relationship.
It's true. It's almost as if the director is intentionally mirroring that broader societal secrecy with those personal secrets. It adds a layer of complexity. You see this seemingly perfect family life, but beneath the surface, there are all of these hidden depths.
It makes you wonder, were those secrets a burden or a way for Rubens to kind of shield his family from, the harsh realities of his political life?
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think it raises a question of, how much do we choose to share with our loved ones, especially during times of danger?
Yeah, this film definitely doesn't shy away from exploring some pretty difficult questions.
Right.
It leaves you wanting to know more, wanting to delve deeper into those hidden layers.
I agree, and I think that's where its power lies. It sparks a curiosity in the viewer, prompting us to really grapple with these complex themes.
It's as if the film itself almost becomes this form of resistance against forgetting.
Yeah.
Urging us to confront these difficult truths about the past.
Absolutely. It encourages us to reflect on, how we navigate truth and justice, not just in the context of a dictatorship, but in our own lives as well.
And speaking of justice, the film does touch upon the Paiva family's eventual legal victory in 1996.
Yes.
But it doesn't really delve into the specifics of their struggle.
I wonder if that was maybe a deliberate choice by the director to keep the focus on the emotional impact of everything,
right,
rather than getting bogged down in legal intricacies.
But I did find myself really curious about those years of struggle that led to that moment of vindication. What hurdles did they face? What compromises, if any, do they have to make along the way?
That's an important question. I think it highlights the fact that the fight for justice is often this very long and arduous journey.
Yeah.
Often taking years or even decades.
Yeah, it makes you realize that achieving justice isn't just about a court ruling.
Right.
It's about this continuous struggle, this commitment to really unearthing the truth.
Exactly. And sometimes that truth comes at a cost.
Yeah.
The film shows Eunice in her later years battling Alzheimer's, struggling to hold on to those precious memories.
Oh, yeah.
It's heartbreaking to think that maybe the fight for justice came at the expense of her own well-being.
That scene is so poignant.
It really is.
It's like her fading memories almost become this metaphor for society's tendency to forget or downplay the atrocities of the past.
Yes, and it serves as such a powerful reminder that we have to actively work to remember.
Right.
And learn from these dark chapters in history.
This film really makes you think about how we as a society deal with trauma and how we ensure that these stories are never forgotten.
It's a call to action, prompting us to really consider our own responsibility, to remember to bear witness, and to fight against any attempts to erase or distort the past.
And on that note, maybe let's pause here for a moment.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll, continue exploring how this film uses, such subtle techniques to convey its powerful message.
Okay.
It's really interesting, reading this review, and it mentioned that the film was actually nominated for a couple of Oscars.
Oh, wow.
And Fernanda Torres, who plays Eunice,
Right.
she's only the second Brazilian actress ever to be nominated for an acting Oscar.
Wow.
And the first was actually her mother, Fernanda Montenegro.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Montenegro, of course, starred in Walter Salles' previous film, Central Station,
Yeah.
which is another, really powerful story about resilience and connection.
And there are these really subtle nods to Central Station in I'm Still Here. Almost like an homage to Montenegro's legacy and the power of, Brazilian storytelling.
It's like Salles is weaving this tapestry,
Yeah.
connecting these two films and highlighting that, enduring struggle for justice and recognition in Brazil.
And the fact that the film, had so much success, both critically and commercially,
Yeah.
it really says something about its impact, especially I think now when, there are those who would rather just sweep these difficult parts of history under the rug.
It's true. It reminds us that art can be such a powerful tool for confronting the past
Yeah.
and, sparking conversations about these sensitive topics.
Speaking of confronting the past, the review also mentioned something kind of interesting about the portrayal of the Paiva family.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that their life is presented in almost like an idealized way.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I think the film does kind of gloss over some of the, rough edges of family life, even in the midst of all the turmoil. It's as if the director wants to emphasize their unity, as a counterpoint to the brutality of the regime.
Do you think that idealized portrayal was like a deliberate choice by the director?
I think it had to have been, yeah.
And if so, what do you think he was trying to achieve by doing that?
I think by presenting this image of this loving, close-knit family, the film is subtly hinting at everything that the dictatorship robbed them of.
Yeah.
It's emphasizing the tragedy without explicitly focusing on negativity.
Yeah, I see that. It's like saying, look at the beauty and happiness that existed
Yeah.
and see how it was just so brutally shattered.
Exactly.
It makes the loss even more profound.
And by, focusing on the family strength, I think the film is implicitly critiquing those destructive forces that sought to tear them apart.
Another thing that really struck me was the lack of detail about the legal battle that eventually led to some form of justice for Rubens. We know that they won a victory in 1996.
Right.
But the process itself remains largely off-screen.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, the film focuses on Eunice's emotional journey. I did find myself wanting to know more about how they navigated that complex legal landscape.
Right, yeah.
What obstacles did they encounter? What compromises did they have to make?
It would have been fascinating to see, how they fought for justice within a system that was still grappling with the legacy of the dictatorship.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the fight for justice is often a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And it requires, immense perseverance and a willingness to navigate a very complex and often flawed system.
The review also highlights this really poignant scene where Eunice, in her later years, is struggling with Alzheimer's. It's such a heartbreaking image, and it just, really speaks volumes about the lasting impact of trauma.
That scene, I think, is so crucial because it connects the personal to the political.
Yeah.
It demonstrates how the consequences of oppression can reverberate across generations.
Right.
And it also serves as a warning, I think, about the dangers of forgetting history.
Right.
And the importance of keeping these stories alive.
It's like her fading memory becomes this metaphor for society's tendency to forget or downplay the atrocities of the past.
Precisely. The film is subtly urging us to remember to bear witness to that suffering and to remain vigilant against any attempts to rewrite or erase history.
Even the title of the film, I'm Still Here, it takes on a whole new meaning in light of this scene.
It does.
It's not just about Eunice's physical survival, but also her enduring spirit.
Yeah.
In the face of, this unimaginable loss and the slow erosion of memory.
It's a powerful declaration of resilience and a call to action, urging us to remember to learn and to continue the fight for truth and justice.
It's incredible how this film, through Eunice's story, it really prompts us to reflect on our own lives and the importance of standing up for what's right.
It really does.
What are some of the key takeaways that you think, listeners should really consider?
Well, I think for me, one of the most striking things is just the courage that it takes to speak truth to power.
Yeah.
Eunice never backed down, even when faced with, intimidation and threats.
Right.
She understood the risks, but she refused to be silenced.
Yeah, it's a really powerful reminder that silence, can sometimes be complicit. And even, seemingly small acts of resistance can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Did the film touch upon any other forms of resistance that were happening during that time?
It did. It really highlights the importance of collective action.
Okay.
Eunice wasn't alone in her fight. She connected with other families who had also, lost loved ones.
Right.
She collaborated with human rights groups and even sought support from international organizations.
So it speaks to the idea that we're stronger together.
Yeah.
And that solidarity can really be a force for change.
It can.
What about the role of international pressure in holding, these oppressive regimes accountable?
Yeah, that's so crucial. The film mentions that, efforts to raise awareness about Rubens' disappearance often bypassed local media.
Right, because that was tightly controlled by the government.
Exactly, and it was really international attention that helped to shed light on the truth and put pressure on the regime.
So it shows how crucial it is to have that global network of support, especially when you're facing, these huge power imbalances.
Absolutely. It underscores the fact that, even in the darkest of times, there are individuals and organizations around the world that are willing to stand up for justice, even when the odds seem completely overwhelming.
Eunice's story is ultimately a story of hope.
It really is.
It reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable suffering, the human spirit can not only endure, but find a way to triumph.
Her unwavering belief that the truth would prevail and that justice would be served, it's incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
And the fact that she lived to see some form of, legal recognition, even though it took decades.
Right.
It really speaks volumes about her resilience.
It's a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of never giving up on, the fight for what's right.
Absolutely.
This deep dive has been so incredibly moving.
It has.
And it's amazing how much we've uncovered from just one film review.
It really is.
What final thoughts would you like to leave our listeners with?
I would just encourage everyone to see I'm Still Here if they have the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder of the importance of remembering the past, confronting injustice, and celebrating the resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
It's a film that stays with you long after the credits roll, and it prompts you to reflect on your own values and your role in shaping a more just and equitable future.
Beautifully said. And that wraps up our deep dive for today. Until next time, remember to stay curious, keep exploring, and always keep diving deep.